Hey everyone, this is Kyle from Money at 30, and today I wanted to talk cameras. Specifically, I wanted to take a look at my new YouTube setup and how I got a pretty good deal on my camera upgrade. Back when I first got started on YouTube in 2017, I purchased a used Sony RX100 Mark II on Amazon for about $400. Well, 4 years later, I decided it was time to invest in a new camera, with my research ultimately leading me to the Sony ZV-1. So what inspired my upgrade decision, why the ZV-1 in particular, and how did the two cameras compare? Let me answer all of those questions and more. To start, while my RX100 was still working well enough, a couple of quirks have popped up recently that impacted my workflow. For as much as I've loved my RX100 Mark II, it's given me a couple of headaches lately. First, from time to time, the camera seems to think that I'm spinning the mode wheel even though I'm not, occasionally causing the camera to stop recording. As you can imagine, this is incredibly frustrating. Similarly, as I've recently learned, the camera can only shoot for 29 minutes at a time. While this isn't usually a problem due to how I shoot my videos, it did cut off 2 recent sessions on me, and what's more, I found that the audio had somehow gone out of sync along the way. Finally, when I decided to get my Mark II over the newer editions of the RX100, I knew that I was forgoing the ability to shoot in 4K. And although I still don't quite think it's necessary for me to go above 1080 for now, perhaps it's time to start thinking a bit more about the future. Given my love for several of the RX100's features, I initially considered just getting a newer generation of that camera, but that was a bit out of my price range. Luckily, the ZV-1 has a number of similarities to the RX100 line. At this time, Sony's RX100 line goes all the way up to Mark 7, with the latest model retailing for around $1,300. That's why I decided to check out the ZV-1 instead, as it retails for a much lower $750 and seems to have now dropped to $700. Yet, at first glance, you might not see a ton of differences between the RX100 and the ZV-1, as they have a similar pocketable form factor, which was a key selling point for me. Moreover, they actually use the same battery, which was a benefit to me in upgrading, as I suddenly have a couple of backup batteries available to me. Also, the hot shoe mount that I occasionally use to attach my GoPro to the top of my camera is also compatible with the ZV-1. In terms of what features I'll miss, the ZV-1 doesn't have a customizable ring on the front like the RX100 does, which is a little disappointing, but by no means a deal breaker. Also, I do have to say that I prefer the more metallic feel of the RX100 to the more plasticky ZV-1. But considering that they weigh about the same and the ZV-1 still feels nice and sturdy, I'm not too worried about the change in materials. Of course, the ZV-1 also has plenty of new features, including some I didn't know I needed. Another sacrifice I made when opting for the older used RX100 Mark II was that I wouldn't have a flip-up screen. I figured this wouldn't be a big deal, and honestly, it hasn't been, although now having a flip-out screen with the ZV-1 has been amazing. In addition to being able to continually check my frame while filming, I also love that I can flip the screen around to protect it in storage. I've also been enjoying using the ZV-1's defocus mode, which automatically adjusts the settings to give you that blurry background look while keeping you sharp in focus. Meanwhile, although I have yet to use the clever product showcase mode that allows the camera to quickly autofocus on items you hold up in front of it, I could see this coming in handy in the future. Speaking of the future, the ZV-1 does indeed film in 4K and can also automatically create proxies that can help with editing. Plus, by adjusting some settings, you can make it so that the camera continues to film until it runs out of battery or storage. Lastly, in addition to coming with a mic input jack unlike my RX100, the ZV-1 also has an apparently upgraded onboard microphone. So just for fun, let's go ahead and compare audio. Right now I'll switch over to the RX100's onboard microphone, followed by the ZV-1's built-in mic, and finally back to my external setup. While I do think that the ZV-1's mic is enhanced from previous models, and I could probably make do with it overall, it's just not as robust sounding as I've become accustomed to. Thus, I think I'll continue with my external mic setup when possible. Incidentally, part of what inspired me to select the ZV-1 was the release of the ZV-E10, so why didn't I go with that camera instead? Originally, when I first decided it might be time to get a new camera, I was looking at the brand new Sony ZV-E10 as an option. After all, I thought perhaps the model's interchangeable lenses would afford me more options down the road as I grew in my skills. But then I realized that I'd be giving up the awesome pocketability that I loved about the RX100. And truth be told, I probably wouldn't even end up using anything other than the kit lens, since new lenses are expensive. Of course, the release of the ZV-E10 also made me realize that it could be a while before we get a real Mark II of the ZV-1, thus making my choice to buy the original model now that much easier. Finally, let's get into how I purchased my ZV-1 and how I managed to save a couple $100. As I mentioned, I previously purchased my RX100 used on Amazon. However, I wasn't too impressed with any of their deals this time around. So I instead decided to try BestBuy.com and found an open box deal in quote-unquote excellent condition for $622, or about $127 below the regular price. Even better, my wife's Sapphire Preferred card had a Chase offer for up to $35 back on Best Buy purchases, bringing my effective cost down to $587 before tax. I also tried to use Rakuten for another 1% back, but sadly, cameras are one of the site's excluded items. By the way, it now looks as though the price has dropped to $700 retail and $581 for the open box, so it's an even better deal. In addition to the camera itself, I also decided to purchase Sony's Vlogger kit, which includes a 64GB SD card and a grip that can be used to control the camera remotely. At $150, the kit wasn't exactly cheap, but I was able to cash in some of my Amazon gift cards that I've been earning from my Mode phone. So together, I still managed to spend less out of pocket than the MSRP of the ZV-1 on its own, so that's not too shabby. Hopefully you enjoyed this look at my new camera setup and the Sony ZV-1, but for more on my upgrade experience, I'll have a link to my article in the description box down below. Also, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment, and be sure to subscribe because we have new videos every week. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time here on Money at 30.